Hope and Patience with Amelia Rope, a podcast about business, well-being and chocolate.
Hello and welcome to Hope and Patience. It's me, Amelia Rope, ex-chocolate creator, now podcast creator and your host. If you're new to Hope and Patience, it's great to have you here. A huge hello and thank you. We're going to be exploring, delving into the stories of founders and dipping into pearls of wisdom from well-being experts. The guests will be inspirational and the precious insights shared guaranteed to be absolute gems. So today I'm really excited about my guest on the show. She is a seed monger and grower of happiness, to quote my guest's words. And she is also a consultant clinical psychologist.
I am.
Grace Alexander from Grace Alexander Flowers. So welcome, Grace.
Thank you very much, Amelia. Hello.
It's lovely to have you here. And I just want to say to the listeners how Grace and I connected, because it was a slight moment of serendipity. I had just created Hope and Patience, and Grace was following me. She was one of my first followers. And I thought, wow, that's really nice. Great, I've got some followers. And I looked at Grace's Instagram page, and if any of you have not yet seen Grace's Instagram page, check it out. It is a complete work of art. And I was thinking, she would be fantastic for the show. And as I was emailing Grace had sent me a DM on Instagram saying, could I come on your show? And I'm just so honoured and delighted that you are here. So, Grace, what it would be lovely to hear about is the catalyst, the sort of the why of being immersed in the worlds of seeds.
For me, it was something at work. I'd invested a huge amount of my time, my identity into my career. I come from a long line of workaholics. I am a fully fledged workaholic myself. And I was working as a child protection psychologist, which is what I still do. But and I thought that was all there is. I thought that that was the way that fulfillment lay. And we had something as simple as a structural reorganisation. Something happened at work, something happened which really just blew me out of the water, completely shifted everything for me. And I sort of went from thinking I knew what I wanted my life to be and how I wanted it to look, to sort of suddenly thinking, goodness me, suddenly that feels not okay anymore. And I need something that is mine. I need something that is rooted in the soil. I adore my job and I love my job and I wouldn't do anything else. But there's not a lot of it you can touch. And there's not a lot of it where you can say, there, it's done. That is my job, that is done. And growing is a whole different aspect of being and a whole different task. And I was really, really lucky that it just happened that there was a tiny little scrap of land behind my cottage. And everyone thought it was a joke. Everyone thought it was absolutely hilarious that, Grace is setting up a flower farm. And I just went out and I looked at it and I thought, that's it, I'm going to grow some flowers. And I planted an orchard and I put down lots of compost and I planted lots of roses. And I had something that was mine and something that was beautiful.
Did your parents garden a lot? I mean, was that something that was part of your childhood?
Yeah, I mean, it was just always there. And looking back now, it's been a thread that I didn't notice because I think I just thought everybody did. So I was actually born in London and we went to Wisley a lot when I was growing up and we went to just lots of gardens at the weekends and spent a lot of time outside. And I've always, my childhood was mostly in sort of villages with big gardens, but it's just always been there. So looking back now, when I was in my sixth form, we had a new sixth form built and I designed the landscaping for it, which looking back now is a bit odd.
Or maybe it all makes sense. Do you still see yourself as a workaholic?
Yes.
Do you think you'll be able to break that mould?
No.
Would you like to break that mould?
No. I mean, am I sane and balanced? Gosh, ask people that know me. Probably not. And that's fine.
Mind you, is anybody, really?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. One of the things that my job gives to my business, which I think is fantastic, is I know exactly how I tick. I'm a complete workaholic, and that's absolutely fine. It's what, it makes me tick and it makes me happy. And listening to other people's messages that maybe that's not how you should be, that's not good for my mental health. I listen to myself over the messages given to me by others.
I can't wait to explore later on then in the show the wellbeing aspect, Grace. So, Grace, when I set up my chocolate business, I was part practice manager of a busy doctor's practice and part running my chocolate business. How do you juggle both, and what gives you the most pleasure, or is it both?
They both give me different things. They both give me things that I value a lot. As you know, and I think everybody knows who's tried it, running a business is not light and fluffy, and it's emails and admin and planning and it's to-do lists and it's everything. So, and I try not to perpetuate that myth on my Instagram, although I make it look very beautiful. I don't lie about what I'm up to. I don't make out that it's all just fluffy and wonderful. There are bits of my job that give me, as a psychologist, that give me just such a huge sense of satisfaction in doing something really important. I'm very aware that what I do has a significant impact on the lives of children forever. When I think about, we've got a baby who's 6 months old, I'm thinking about when they get married, who's going to be there. Their families is huge. They're huge decisions. I have an amazing team who I work with. That gives me a lot. There are lots and lots of things that I get from the job that really are important to me. There are lots of things I get from the business that are really important to me. The ability to be really creative and to be independent, to make my own decisions about things, the people I meet in the flower world are just fantastic. I love some of the people I've met and the relationships I've got with people. So I think lots of people think that the job's grim and the business is lovely, but actually for me it's about different aspects of my personality and different aspects of what I find important. I get the best of both worlds because I have both things. So
it's a healthy balance. It's feeding different parts of you, really.
Yeah, we've already established I'm not terribly sane or balanced, but
no. But we've also established that none of us really are.
No.
Which is very refreshing, actually.
Yeah, it's the message that we all should be that causes all the damage, that we're all thinking everyone else has got it sorted and we should be going to yoga.
I agree. Did you, back on the flower business, when you set up the business, did you imagine all the sort of dross that goes with running your own business? I don't think I did. I thought it was just going to be making lovely chocolate and just sort of breezing around. I didn't take on, this was 2007, but I didn't take on board the really sort of heavy stuff. Well, and people copying you and production issues, all that sort of side of things.
No, I had no idea at all. But I also didn't have any idea about the good bits either. I don't think because I think it was such a reaction to a very difficult emotional experience, I don't think I really thought it through at all. I don't think I really thought it would become a thing. I just sort of did it, and it was just a bit of a joke, and it was and then people started employing me to do their weddings, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm a florist. This is a bit crazy. And I had this whole other life. So Grace Alexander isn't my birth name. So
oh really?
No,
can you share your?
No, I can't. No. So
did you create it?
Yeah. So I had my name as a psychologist. Which is incredibly Googleable, unfortunately. And I thought...
Do you have two names then? Still going?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
So there was a huge moment in my life where I thought, I am ready to be Grace Alexander all the time. So actually, it's my husband's first name. So because obviously I work
Hold on, Alexander's the first name?
Yes, his name's Alexander.
He's not Alexander Grace?
No, I have suggested.
Make it very easy.
Yeah, or when we got married, I said, do you think you should be Alexander? And he said, no, that was not going to happen. But I, obviously because the sort of people that I work with, and obviously I make some, recommendations and I, do some assessments that are quite unpopular and quite risky and quite dangerous. I was very clear that when I set up in the flowers, I didn't really want necessarily there to be an overlap. So people could Google me or find me or write things on my Facebook page about the work that I might have done with their family. So I created a whole new identity, a whole new sort of life that was completely parallel to this sort of difficult time that I was going through with my job.
Incredible.
Yeah. And Also, my birth names were quite difficult to spell, and it really used to annoy me.
So want to know what her birth name is. But anyway, hey, listeners, if anyone discovers it, share it. Not publicly, just send an email. Send an email. I promise not to share it to anyone.
Yeah.
With your business, Grace, I mean, with you founded it, as far as I'm aware, in 2013.
Yes.
So you're in that sort of edgy time when you're potentially looking to scale up. Is it a business that is going to be easy to scale up? What do you see with the scalability side of it?
If I was a different person, it would probably be quite easy to scale. And lots of people I've spoken to have said, this is where you need to go with it. And I've had some really lovely advice from people who've made that step really successfully. And then I find myself at 1 o'clock in the morning with a teaspoon in a bowl and a bag of seeds, packing my own seed packets, thinking, what the fuck am I doing? And I know intellectually that, lots of people have suggested how you source people who could come and help. And, someone who's in the village who just wants, a couple of hours part-time work, she could come and pack your seeds for you and she'll be great. I cannot let go. I cannot let go of the really mundane physical act of I print all my seed packets, I pack all my seed packets. If you open a packet of seed packets and it's got the little inner, I have packed that for you. And I find that bit really hard to let go of. So in terms of scaling, I just don't think I can do it.
That's a really interesting one, Grace, because when I set up my business, it was very artisan and I did everything and I made my crystallized chocolate dip pedals and stuff like that. And then I went into bars, and although I didn't physically make the bar, I hand foiled them, hand wrapped them, hand signed them. If you ordered online, you got a handwritten note. I knew all my customers. I used to put in little extras, and it was all, it was lovely. And I really enjoyed it because I felt very connected. And then I had, a bit like you, that scaling up issue with going to a big production unit. We don't want a hand foil. I have actually got a fab team who still were doing hand foiling. But, and I couldn't hand sign anything. It wasn't going to work. And it is a really big thing, and I think it can take quite a lot of time to get your head around it. And it almost needs to be in stages. It almost needs for someone to put in a whacking great order, and you think,
Toast
you know
have
what?
Just done that.
Well, there you go. And so all these little things, you think, okay, well, I can't be up till 1 or 2 in the morning anymore to be doing this. I need something. I mean, toast is fantastic, and I was going to mention that later. You must be so proud.
I'm so proud.
So, Grace, how? How
10
are you
days.
going to do
10
it?
days I was stocked in toast and they put in a reorder, which
well
I
done.
am so thrilled about,
Brilliant.
/ exhausted in anticipation of.
Okay, but how do you see getting over that challenge? Because or will you just try and keep it contained so that it's small and niche?
I think, and I'm sort of going to link the two stories here about how I started and what I started for. This is not a business that I started for the sake of it. The role of my business is to make me happy, essentially. It's to have wonderful conversations with people like you. It's to be able to express what I want to do on Instagram. So lots of people are very rude on Instagram and it gets quite a bad rap at the moment. I love Instagram.
Yeah, I love it too.
I love it.
Especially story time.
I love photography. I love the conversations that I have on Instagram. I love looking at how other people, construct their lives. I love the aesthetic of it. When I stop enjoying it, I'm going to stop doing this. This is not something that I want to scale for the sake of it. And if it doesn't feel comfortable or feel right for me to scale, I will just not. And so already I've really capped my wholesale stockists because basically if I don't absolutely adore your shop and wouldn't shop in that shop myself, I don't stock those shops. So I had sort of a top 3 dream stockist: Toast, Bailey's, Midgley Green and Clevedon. And once I was in theirs, I was like, I'm done. That's amazing. So all I will do is I will keep the business doing what I want it to do. And that means the relationships I have with my customers, supporting my field, supporting, the lifestyle that I have in terms of my field and supporting those relationships. I don't need to scale it because that's not what it's for me. I don't want to have the stress of, have I got to arrange something for this person to come on Tuesday mornings to do this? I don't want it.
One thing that I was, when I was looking at your website and just exploring, delving into the world of Grace Alexander Flowers, and I thought, gosh, if I ever get married, I want you to do my flowers. I mean, but is that a challenge in itself? Because, what if there is a storm and all your blooms are off and the bride's saying, where's my bouquet? And is it a challenge, or is it find that?
That's why I sell seeds.
I don't do
any
the
flowers anymore. And actually, when I started and I was a florist, it was exactly that I can still remember. I was standing by my window and I had this beautiful row of David Austin roses outside my sitting room window, and I was just about to go and do a workshop for British Flowers Week in June, and it started to rain. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. It started to rain, and I just watched all of these roses just hit the deck, and I was like, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. And so I'd been doing some really big weddings by then. I'd really loved them. I had some lovely couples who came to me and really wanted me to do their weddings. And it was such a privilege and such an honour. And I did love it. And I felt like such a florist. But, I was crawling into work on a Monday morning thinking, I get paid to sit here and, interview people and write notes and write reports and stuff. This is easy. Being a florist is hard. And I thought, I don't need that. That's not what this is for. So I think, I can't remember where I'd been, but I did one of those car journeys where, when you have the time to just drive and think and reflect on things. And I came home and I said to my husband, the only thing I like better than flowers is seeds. And he was like, oh my God, what now? And I said, no, I've got this idea. And so I have all the loveliness of flowers and absolute zero stress.
Is it challenging to collect the seeds? Is it very precise to the time when you harvest? And again, I've just got storm obsession because that's what we've been living in. I went to my parents and their greenhouse panels just flew out and it nearly was a disaster.
Yeah.
So, does the weather, ultimately climate change too, affect the seeds, how many you collect, the quality of the seeds?
Top tip, always shut your greenhouse when there's a storm coming.
He forgot, and that's what...
You never, ever forget. My greenhouse has blown away 3 times now, and every time my husband has to rebuild it, and now I do not forget. Once you've seen a greenhouse in a crumpled heap, you don't forget.
No.
They're a lot easier than flowers. And actually, I'm very careful about what sort of flowers and what sort of seeds I stock, and I make sure they're ones that grow really easily and there's nothing terribly troublesome, and they're just ones that are, in terms of growing happiness, I don't want to do sort of fiddly, difficult things. I want ones that are just abundant and give joy and are just really, really easy. And I'm very lucky because I think there's a whole movement now about saving seed, collecting seed, growing at home. I brought out a dyer's garden collection, which people just
which looks
completely.
beautiful.
Yeah, so I've cleared a bit of ground in my field that I'm going to have my own dyer's garden this year as well. So I can't wait for spring to get started for that.
Do they have shelf life seeds out of interest?
They do, but if you keep them in the fridge and you don't put them in the sunshine, they'll last as long as you need them to, mostly.
Wow. I'm just moving sweetly on to not chocolate. Actually, we're not having chocolate today anyway. Something different. But moving on to sort of the mindset of Grace. Mm-hmm. Do you? Would you say you're a morning person or an afternoon person? And if does that influence if you've got to make big decisions, whether it's at work or whether it's doing the seed mongery? Are you better because you're a morning person to make your decisions then?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say that I have different times of the day for different things. So I'm a very early riser, although I'm an early waker, but every morning starts the same. So I have a coffee machine next to my bed. And we have 2 cups of coffee in bed, and the dogs come upstairs and they all get into bed for coffee and cuddles in the morning. So that's how I start my day. And that's often my doing bits time. So very often I'll post on Instagram there, I'll answer some emails there, I'll read a bit. So it's a sort of quite a nice protected time where I start the day with a bit of sort of action and activity and intention, but in quite a relaxed sort of way. I write best at night. So my job is actually very flexible in terms of my hours, because often I'm at my most creative at sort of 9, 10 o'clock at night. And so if I have a very difficult assessment to write up, or if I have something that I really need to be writing in terms of work, very often I will do that at night. And sort of, because I think my mind sort of churns on things, and I'm a big gestator. Like I know not to try and rush myself in terms of either decisions or thinking or coming to conclusions about things. I can recognise the sensation of needing to let something sit for a bit. I'm a bit like a big coffee pot. I just sort of percolate and then plunge at the end, and then suddenly it's all brewed. But so I would say in terms of decision making, it's when I don't rush it. It's less a time of day than the amount of time that I've been letting it sit for.
Would you say that you are a perfectionist and have high expectations?
Yes, I would. Although I had a guy who came and helped me in the garden for a bit, and he was quite OCD. And I said to him I was a bit of a perfectionist, and he choked laughing because on the outside my life looked incredibly chaotic and untidy.
Okay.
He was just like, you're not a perfectionist. You haven't put those foxgloves out, and they've been there for 3 weeks. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
Optimist or pessimist?
Optimist. I'm the luckiest person in the world. Absolutely.
And do you have, I know it sounds sort of therapy talk in a way, but with the inner critic thing, it's always something that fascinates me, because mine is now much better than it was, but I do sort of whip myself quite hard at times. Do you have that inner critic at all? And if you do, how do you keep it at bay?
Everyone has the inner critic, and if anyone tells you they don't, they're lying.
Great.
Absolutely. And I think I'm very clear, I'm a psychologist, not a psychotherapist. I do some therapy. And like I said at the beginning, a huge part of being a psychologist, you have to do the work on yourself. You have to know when your mind is getting in your way. You have to know when your mind is not being helpful. So coming in here, I mean, this is the first time I've done a podcast on anything that looks like this situation. And I could feel my body going, oh my God. Like, I'm very good at managing anxiety because I have quite high stress, but I could feel it in my knees. And that's really unusual for me. I could feel anxiety in my knees. And I thought, right, okay, I know what you're telling me, which is run away now. This is too big and it's too scary, but it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's fine.
And it's quite cosy sitting in here.
And it's quite nice, and actually
not much green. We've got a lot of cabling around us, and barrows. And we've got the wonderful producer and the wonderful Dan, sound guy.
Yeah.
Can't forget them.
Yeah.
So now we're not having a chocolate break. Grace has selected cheese. And
so exciting.
I'm just going to mention my lovely little cheese company in Pimlico called Ripon Cheese, because they are superb and they're a little small independent. And the cheese that we've got today is called Sel sur Chair.
Wow.
And I love goat's cheese, but I did say not too goaty, I'm afraid.
Not too farmyard.
So it is, I'm just having a quick thing at the crib sheet. It's faintly heavy and elastic, but it's followed by softening as it melts in one's mouth.
Sounds
so
incredible.
Let's tuck in. You're going to hear a bit of a crickle crackle. I've got a knife that I've taken from my kitchen. How do we do this with a... I'm going to swing around here.
Shall I open the biscuits?
Yes, open the biscuits. I haven't got a plate. It doesn't matter. Anyway, this, I feel it's going to be really pungent, but it's going to accompany Grace back to Somerset.
Oh, thank you.
Probably be good with some cider.
Oh,
Scrumpy.
Lovely.
Is it Scrumpy that comes from Somerset? Cider?
Yeah,
Both.
it is, yeah. We do have some cider apple trees in the orchard, but we've yet to make our own cider.
Oh, yum.
Is that pungent?
That's pungent. Actually, hold on, listeners. Just got to take a photo of this. Well, you've got to think of Instagram, haven't you? I know we're running a podcast, but there's
I'm always thinking about Instagram.
Stuff to be done. Right, Grace, you cut the cheese and tuck in to the biscuits. It'd be interesting to see. I don't think the producer's going to rush in, Chris, today, because he's had a sick bug. And I think probably he thinks cheese might not be good for it. Is it good? Good. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, tuck in. While you're plating up your biscuit, I'm just going to fire some questions at you, if that's okay.
Right, okay.
Keep us with no time to rest,
no.
Grace. It's busy, busy, busy. So I would like to ask you...
Just the quick fire round. Feels like it's the quick fire round.
What was that show, slightly off-piste, you might not have watched it, where they used to go, do you remember the cross? And that came up. What was that called? Family Fortunes, that's it. Right, back to it. Great, and very serious note. And while you answer this, I'm going to have some cheese. Did you eat that?
No, but they're going to be quite crunchy, and I think the idea...
No, crunch. We crunch.
You want me to crunch?
Crunch. I'd love to know your thoughts on the words success and failure.
I can't work out how to say this without sounding incredibly smug, and I genuinely don't mean it to be incredibly smug. But somebody else asked me about my relationship with failure, and I just thought, it's not that I can't think of a time where I've failed, but life sort of is, it doesn't stop at those moments, so it just sort of keeps going. And so something that might be a failure is then just part of the running a business. I think, going back to the optimist question, I think when something's failed, I just sort of move on. I don't sit with it particularly. I try something else.
And success?
I think I'm a very goal-orientated person. I'm very big on setting intentions, setting goals, setting where I want things to be. But I think probably the flip side of not really feeling failure is I don't always feel success either. So because I'm always moving and always growing. So I think that's probably my blessing and my curse, is that I don't always sit with things. So I don't necessarily get derailed by failure, but I don't always take the time to really appreciate the successes. But I think there's something about, so there's a bit of the brain that sort of promises you things if you achieve your goal. You know, it keeps you moving, it keeps you driving, and it's about sort of delaying gratification, and it's about putting aside short-term pleasure for long-term gain. I've got really persuasive frontal lobes which say, you know, if you work really, 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 really hard for ages, you can have a sit down at the end. Maybe in a year, maybe in 18 months, maybe once you've supplied toast, maybe when you've, maybe then you can rest. But of course that moment never comes. And so I have this sort of, I talk about it a lot in terms of there's someone, holding a carrot on a stick that just keeps me going. And I don't ever get the carrot. So this is sort of the workaholic thing, which means that I don't ever really let myself enjoy the successes, because I'm always on to the next thing and the next thing, and the goals and the goalposts always move, because it's a bit like the scaling thing is, how big are you going to make this? How big are you going to, people always ask me when I'm going to give up my job. And, I think there's a cultural thing as well about just keep growing for the sake of it, when actually that's not always helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly what I felt with my business, was that in a way I was on this sort of this momentum of people saying, well, you need to expand. And then when you get investors, you've got to think big. But ultimately, am I a big person? I don't know whether that's who I am. So we're now going to move into the wellbeing section. What I didn't realise that I found out this weekend is that you would probably know this. GPs are now social prescribing, which sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. So,
Grace, stress, that dreaded word, overused word, a bit like luxury, but complete opposite.
Yeah.
How and where does stress affect you?
I quite like stress. I think stress is, we've made it mean something when I'm in a situation where I can tell my brain is looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to match up to this. That's when sort of stress starts to get involved. Usually there's a bit of management around that I think, well, I've just got to do this. We're going to have to somehow manage it, and I have 3 cups of coffee and pull myself together and off we go. But actually, I don't know if you've come across the work of Emily Nagotsky and Completing the Stress Cycle. And I think the problem is we're often in situations where we're under a huge amount of pressure all of the time. So we never complete the stress cycle. So I know what situations I find acutely stressful. So giving evidence in court is one of them. If I'm in a situation at work where actually there's a real physical threat to my safety, so I'm with someone who's quite aggressive and it's my role to manage them, I know that after that experience, my adrenaline will be coursing through my body and I have to find a way to finish that off and to complete that stress cycle. I think the problem is lots of the stress we have are quite chronic. Lots of people are talking about, having breaks from Instagram and social media detoxes, and which is great if actually they find Instagram stressful. But again, it's about our perception of situations. I don't find Instagram stressful, so it doesn't make any sense to take a break from it.
So well-being, we've heard how you start your day with your 2 coffees.
And my dogs.
And your dogs.
My dogs
and
being
your
paused a
husband.
bit. Yes.
How do you end it? What's the sort of thing that you do for the final relaxation of your day?
I don't think I necessarily... Well, I fill up the coffee machine. That's what I do. But my husband does that mostly. I don't think I necessarily have an end-of-day routine, to be honest. I think light is very important to me. And there's a moment where I go into the bedroom, put the bedside light on, which is lovely, which always feels like the end of the day. But I don't have a winding down routine. I don't have any of this, no phones in the bedroom. I don't, it's just all go. And then make a list for the next day and then just stop.
And do you manage to sleep through the night most of the time?
No.
So if you wake up during the night, do you get up and read a book, or do you lay in bed thinking, okay, let's ride with this? And
it depends if the reason that I've been woken up is the spaniels climbed into bed, which is quite often what happens. No, I've traditionally always woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning for about half an hour. I tend to put something on the radio and then just go back to sleep. I can't remember the last time I slept all the way through the night. It's very unusual. But it doesn't particularly bother me. So
I think we all have our patterns, don't we?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the phone, but you've definitely answered that one. How do you survive the onslaught of digital life? Do you think that it is too much and makes you compromise your well-being side, or do you feel it's okay?
The problem is never the thing. The problem is what we make about the thing. So Instagram is not the problem. It's our relationship with Instagram and our view of Instagram and what we're making Instagram mean to us. It's very, very unusual that I feel any negative effects from Instagram.
But beyond Instagram, so sort of emails or messages, the whole sort of thing of it, rather than just Instagram.
Yeah, it's very unusual that I think I need to just not check my email for a bit. And they took my work email off my personal phone.
Great. That sounds a really positive thing.
Which means I now have to carry... Well, it was for...
GDPR.
It was for GDPR. And all the clinical stuff that I carry on. But it just means I now have to carry around 2 phones.
Oh, okay.
I don't find that things leave much of a trace. I can check an email, either answer it or not answer it, and then it doesn't really persist. I just move on to the next thing. And I think that's okay. So I think it's knowing when you need to step away from it. And also if it's getting in the way of real life relationships, I think that's really important.
And you've got, how many dogs? 2, 3?
3.
3?
3 dogs.
Because when I first tried to get hold of Grace, she was walking the dogs, and that sounds really positive, because you seem to have a set regime of taking them out.
Oh, you can't argue with a dog who wants a walk.
No.
It's just not an option.
Point. Waste of time. So that's really good. Do you have a favourite hideaway that you would be happy to share with the listeners at all?
Well, we've sort of talked about this before between ourselves about actually my hideaway is very much my home. And if you follow me on Instagram or you see any of the pictures of my business, it's very much located in my beautiful thatched cottage in Somerset. And so no, I'm afraid people can't come and hide away in it with me. But I think although relationships that I've formed through my business are really important to me, actually I'm quite an introvert. I can go out in the world and be, confident, assertive and do what I need to do. But then I very much need to go back to my home, to my thick cob walls, and I need to be inside my home and there. And that time at home is incredibly important to me. I do not function if I don't have a base to go back to and a place to sort of withdraw from the world. So I would say, lots of people need lots of holidays and things like that. And actually, I don't find that I do. I don't find that I want to be away. I always think I do, but now I've been in town for 12 hours, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, you want to get back. Most
like,
definitely.
Gosh, you know.
Do you have a book or a song that you would recommend at all to our lovely listeners?
That's on the spot.
Yes, Grace has not been primed.
I've not been prepped for that.
While you're thinking, I'm going to have another bite of the cheese and biscuit. Sorry.
I think I read a lot of books. I have a lot of books. It's one of my things that I really can't. Trying to reduce my consumerism, but books I just can't let go of. But I would say that everybody has a book from a time in their life where things seemed a bit simpler. I'm a great rereader of books, and I think everyone has a comfort book.
Okay, so what is your comfort book then?
Well,
we're waiting with anticipation.
I would say one of two, and it depends how life's going. Anita Brookner, Hotel de Lac, is one of my favourites.
Mm-hmm.
Just every time I read it, I get something different out of it. And it's so beautifully written, and it's so strong in the most feminine and female way, which I just adore. If I am finding that life is just a bit much, and it's all got a bit serious, nothing beats a Jilly Cooper.
Oh, lovely Jilly. I was, her son was this is my little thing, but we were flatmates.
No.
Years ago. Felix. Hello, Felix, if you're tuning in. But they're a real rip-roaring read, Jilly
Funnily
Coopers.
enough, I think, and it may have been Felix, my husband was on a placement in a doctor's surgery, and I think one of the doctors was the best friends of Jilly Cooper's son.
How funny.
So this may be one of those 7 degrees of separation things.
Yeah.
But I recognise in myself lots of things we talked about today in terms of my brain is always moving forward and my brain is always striving. I am a big future striver, planner, striver, worker, keep going. And there is something about Jilly Cooper which just cuts through all of that, and it's just completely unrealistic and completely fantastical and completely in the moment and completely joyous in a sort of a completely non-striving way. Which,
yeah, they are really good.
Whilst also recognising she's an incredibly hard worker, actually, is Jilly Cooper. But, you know, the emotional experience of reading that book is to just stop me in my tracks and to just remove me from my life.
Riders, the one I remember. Rupert, somebody black. Anyway, okay, keeping focus and keeping the show on the road. Can you remember when you have had to have bucket loads of hope, and also when you've had to remember a lot of patience, because that obviously links into hope and patience, and my two grannies?
I would say I am currently waiting for something to happen in my life, waiting for something really big to happen. And I think for the first time in my life, it's something that I can't make happen by working really hard, because there is something that's sort of going on slightly parallel to my business and to my job, which is out of my control. And it's been going on for probably nearly a year now. And I have railed against this. I have found it so hard because actually I think I've sort of learned mistakenly that I can, if I work hard enough, I can make anything happen. And this is something that I am having to be incredibly patient with. And I have to work, I can feel myself getting, what can we do about this? How can we make this happen? And having to really talk myself down again, saying it'll happen in its own time. It'll happen. I've tried visioning. I've tried manifesting, I've tried praying, I've tried everything, and I cannot make this thing happen any faster than it's going to happen. So I would say actually now, probably for the first time in my life, I'm really digging into those buckets of hope and patience, but I'm not finding it easy.
No,
I'm
very
not doing
difficult.
No.
I'm still, I broke my toe and I'm still being patient to try and mend that. But even with things like the show, and it's a startup and stuff like that, you've got to have hope and you've got to have patience. So, Grace, have you got anything that you'd like to share, anything new? The website is gracealexanderflowers.co.uk. You're stocked, as you said, in the wonderful toast. Online?
Yes, online, yeah.
Caro in Somerset, is that another one?
Caro in Somerset is a beautiful, beautiful shop in Bruton. I'm stocked there. I have lots and lots of stockists all over the country now. Some of them are listed on my website. The Newt in Bruton, which is the most beautiful, absolutely beautiful farm shop and home shop and estate and gardens, and absolutely glorious. If anyone has the opportunity to go, highly recommend it. Lots and lots of different places, but also The Future Kept online, which is a really beautiful website if you haven't seen it. It's one of the big inspirations for my website. And Jessica and Dean, who run The Future Kept, are amazing people, amazing creatives. And Dean has been and photographed my field, and hopefully will do so again.
So there are loads of places, everybody, to buy Grace's seeds. I'm definitely going to get some for my mother. Sadly, I don't have a garden, which I miss. So just to end the show, the book that I want to recommend is Wabi Sabi by Beth Kempton, which, funnily enough, was reminded to me when I was reading Grace's website, and it was the influence behind your curation of the seeds for toast.
Yeah.
It's a really, really, really good book, and it is beautiful. It's something that you just want to show off in ways. Visually, it's very pleasing. So the quote for the show is by Arianna Huffington. "Boundaries are my oxygen." I would like to say thank you so much to Grace for coming all this way. It's been just lovely because I feel that we've just chatted. So thank you for sharing all that you've shared.
You're very welcome.
And thank you to the listeners, my lovely listeners, for finding us. So I'll be back with another story soon. So make sure that you subscribe to the latest episode. And if you like what you hear, please give us a positive rating. I would also love to know what you'd like to hear more of, less of, and importantly too, none of. Just let me know via the website. So until next time, keep sparkling. Bye.
Hope and Patience with Amelia Rope. Join the conversation at hopeandpatience.co.uk or find Amelia on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter @HopeandPat.